You know, I was trying so hard to cut salt out of my diet. And then we get to this fight. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my Death Battle prediction videos. And next time on Death Battle, after Tanjiro vs Jonathan Joestar, we have Thor from Marvel Comics versus Vegeta from Dragon Ball. Now, I'm personally quite excited for this fight. These are two characters that I like a lot, and you know, I was surprised that this fight got announced so early. I thought it was going to be released closer to the release date of the Thor Love and Thunder movie, but I guess it's earlier than I expected, and that's perfectly fine. I will say, though, that I am a little disappointed that we're getting so many comic and anime characters so early in the season. And sure, you might say, well, they have to put those kinds of fights somewhere. Maybe they're just putting all of them or a lot of them closer to the beginning. And that's fair, but I would imagine that they'd want to spread them out as much as they possibly could. So the fact that we're getting so many so early, like so many anime characters and so many comic characters, it makes me a little worried for the future of this season. But you know what? I still have faith that they're going to pull some twists and turns and some unexpected stuff that I'm going to like a lot. So, you know, I'll just have to wait and see. And I still do like this fight. I think it could be really cool. So I really can't complain too much. So I guess just to get this out of the way really quick, this is not going to be a prediction where I do a major deep dive into the characters' abilities and feats and saying everything that they've ever done, all that stuff. You know, this is more so going to be one of those predictions where I just start by saying who I think would win and then go over the basics of why I feel that way, because I feel like in this case it's just easier. It's not that hard to get a good grasp of this fight, you know, without going into a lot of details. So, you know, if you feel differently from me, then that's perfectly fine. You know, I'm not trying to force you to feel a certain way or to change your mind or anything, but I myself am thinking that Thor is going to be the winner of this fight. And if you just wanted to know who I thought would win, then, you know, that's it. I hope you have a good day. See you later. But if you do want to know why I feel this way, then keep watching and I will explain. So I guess I should first address the major elephant in the room here. There were a lot of people that were kind of cautious about Death Battle doing this fight after they did Hulk versus Broly, and after a lot of people disagreed with it based on, you know, disagreements about the multipliers that they used for Broly and Dragon Ball characters and the representation of Hulk's power specifically. There were a lot of people that had a lot of issues with that. Personally, I'm not that worried about the representation of these characters, at least not to the same extent, especially after Goku Black versus Reverse Flash. It seems like Death Battle now has a much better understanding of like volume scaling and how different verses directly relate to each other in terms of like size and the scope of those universes or multiverses or whatever. So I don't think they're going to go back to what they did in Hulk versus Broly, especially considering how big the Marvel universe and the Marvel multiverse is compared to what you'll find in Dragon Ball, and also just, you know, based on the characters and the power levels that these characters can reasonably scale to. But we'll talk about that a bit later. And technically, there's also the question of what they're going to give Thor specifically. For those of you guys that don't know, Thor got a lot more powerful a while back, you know, thanks to the Odin Force, which honestly has been around for so long and has been the case for so long that it really should be standard at this point. And some of you guys might be thinking, well, yeah, that's obvious. Why even bring it up? I'm bringing it up just because Death Battle has not always used all of the buffs that comic characters have gotten, or they haven't used characters, you know, always at their most current or most powerful states. Most notably Venom in Venom vs. Krona. You know, Venom got a lot more powerful, but they didn't include any of those buffs. However, I believe the reason why they did that, and this is more so my hypothesis, but I'm thinking like the main reason why they did that is just because the Venom that is in the comics nowadays is just really different from the Venom that is like in the public eye that most people see him as. And I feel like they wanted to use a version of Venom that more people were familiar with, you know, like the character from Spider-Man, like a frenemy of Spider-Man, you know? Whereas with Thor, him gaining this new power really doesn't change the overall essence of the character, so there's a lot less reason to believe that this power boost is temporary. So personally, I do believe that Death Battle is going to be going with like the current version of Thor with this extra power, in case any of you guys were interested in that. And of course, I could be wrong, but that's just my thinking. But like I said before, if we look at these franchises side by side and just look at how the multiverses and character power levels are structured, then Thor is just a lot more impressive by design. He's taken on characters that are way beyond pretty much anything that you can find in Dragon Ball, let alone when it comes to Vegeta specifically. Like, he's fought Silver Surfer, Gore the God Butcher, Galactus, and so many of these godly or cosmic beings that are capable capable of affecting the entire Marvel multiverse, and then some in some cases, and also characters that can reach essentially immeasurable speeds. And we've seen Death Battle talk about immeasurable or incalculable speeds before, even as recently as Scarlet Witch versus Zatanna. So we know that it's something that they're comfortable working with, even when it comes to Marvel as well, specifically. And, you know, where you want to place Thor in terms of stats specifically, like regardless of where you want to place Thor in terms of power and speed, it's still clear that he can handle characters with these kinds of ridiculous stats. Like, that's no question. And that kind of complex, multi-layered cosmology that Marvel has just doesn't exist in Dragon Ball to the same extent, and so it doesn't translate the same way when it comes to characters' power and speed. We don't get characters destroying as much physical space as a lot of the heavy hitters in Marvel because the universes aren't as big, they're not as complex, and the same goes with speed for most of the characters. They're not able to move at that ridiculously high speed. And if you do want specific characters that they could potentially scale Vegeta to, they're not going to scale him all the way up to Broly because they specifically made a point of Broly being on par with Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, who of course is way stronger than Vegeta on his own. Really, the best character, even if, that I think they're going to scale Vegeta to is Super Saiyan Blue Goku, who we still haven't gotten a specific number for in terms of his power output, at least not from Death Battle, but still, there is nothing in Dragon Ball that implies that Goku could scale to something that allows him to destroy as many universes in one shot as characters like Thor can, especially when even just one universe in Marvel is hundreds or thousands of times greater than the universes found in Dragon Ball, at least. I think it's also fair to point out the other advantages that these characters have. For instance, Vegeta is probably the more skilled hand-to-hand fighter. Both of these characters are a lot more intelligent when it comes to battle than you might think at first glance, but Thor is still a lot older than Vegeta and has a lot more experience fighting a wider variety of characters and powers. He's just gone up against a lot more things over a much longer period of time. And also, Thor's versatility is absolutely ridiculous when you look at all of the things that Mjolnir has done over the course of the comics. Like, yeah, there's the general stuff like electricity generation, weather manipulation, all of that stuff, but it's also done a lot of ridiculous things like time, soul, and life force manipulation, energy nullification, which would be extremely useful against Vegeta, and also the God Blast, which is capable of killing beings that otherwise cannot be killed. And that's just scratching the surface. And I really do not want to sell Vegeta short. Of course, he has a number of strong abilities in terms of quantity, like the Gallic Gun, of course, the Final Shine, the Gamma Burst Flash, all of these abilities, but a lot of them are still mostly energy-based, which again, Thor also has and has counters for. He does have some other abilities, like there's Hakai and the Spirit Control, but even then, I don't see them being game changers, as Thor has similar abilities that are more effective and way more strong abilities on top of that, not to mention his shown resistances in the comics. So with all of this considered, like with his experience, with his crazy abilities and hacks and counters, and with his speed, I'd honestly argue that Thor has what it takes to reliably take down Vegeta, even if they make out the power and durability difference to be like they made it out in Hulk versus Broly. I'd still want to say that Thor has what it takes to either avoid or counter pretty much anything Vegeta can throw at him, and that he can kill Vegeta, that he has methods of killing Vegeta that are easily available to him. Like I said earlier, I'm not going into as much detail with this fight as I did with something like my Goku Black versus Reverse Flash prediction, and the reason why is because we've seen so many of these kinds of characters come onto Death Battle already that we already know all of the specifics that we need to know going into it. I can just say the kinds of characters that these characters can compare to, and that's really all I need to say. I don't need much more in-depth justification than that. But if you want to recap, then essentially if they make out the power and durability difference between these characters similar to how they made it out in Hulk versus Broly, and if they don't put Thor at his current power level for some reason, then I think Vegeta has a chance to win the episode. However, I don't believe that Death Battle is going to do either one of those things, and if they don't, then Thor, I believe, just has it better in terms of power, durability, speed, abilities, experience, etc., etc. Yeah, it is a little annoying to me that we have another fight where one character being from a major comic franchise is essentially why they win, because of the longevity and the kind of scaling that they get, but, you know, there's not really anything I can do about that, so there's no use complaining. But yeah, you know, if you feel any differently than me on anything, then that's perfectly fine, but I personally believe that Thor is going to be the winner of the next death battle. But anyway, guys, that is the prediction. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give this video a like, comment your comments down below, subscribe if you could too, that would be amazing. But no matter what you guys do, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I am very excited for this episode. Again, I really like both of the characters, and I hope you guys are excited for it too. But either way, yeah, that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.